Am I audible to all of you? Write it in the chat box. Okay. So just a minute. Let me share my today's presentation. So today we are going to start new unit, uh, which is unit 3 of your computer network syllabus. So this unit basically deals with the transport layer of the TCP/IP protocol. So let's start with the transport layer first. So the main role of transport layer is to provide communication services directly to the application process running on different hosts. So basically here we are taking the processes, the different application processes. So as you can see in the diagram, that this is the application layer, and in the application layer we have different processes, we already studied in the unit 2, like the email services or the file transfer protocol services. So these are different types of application services or application processes. So these processes going to just a minute, some other participants are waiting in the lobby, so I am just allowing them. So as we already studied in the unit 2, that there are many application services, like the email services, like the file transfer protocol services, and these are present in the application layer. So these services are going to interact with the transport layer, uh, and the transport layer consists of two protocols, namely the TCP, the transport protocol, and the user datagram protocol. After that, from the transport layer, they are communicating with the internet layer protocol, and in the internet layer there is only one protocol, the IP protocol. So that's how the communication takes place from the application layer to the internet layer. And as you can see here, the communication is in two way. uh, Means the full duplex communication will be there from the internet layer to the application layer, and also from the application layer to the internet layer. So from the sender's end, it takes from the application layer to the internet layer, and on the receiver's end, it takes from the internet layer to the application layer. So our computer network provides more than one protocol on the network application. So, for example, the TCP and the UDP are the two transport layer protocols that provide a different set of services to the network layer. So, in this unit, we are going to study in detail the transmission control protocol and the user datagram protocol. So these two protocols, the TCP and the UDP protocol, we are going to discuss these protocols in detail in this unit. So moving forward to the next topic is services provided by the transport layer. So as you can see in the diagram, that there are many services provided by the transport layer. So let us, as you can see here, there are five major services provided by the transport layer. First is the end-to-end delivery of the message. The second is addressing. The third is reliable delivery from sender to the receiver. The fourth is flow control at the basically at the receiver's end, and fifth is the multiplexing. We already discussed in the unit 2. What do you mean by multiplexing? So these are the main five services which are provided by the transport layer. So let us discuss each of these services one by one. So first is the end-to-end delivery. So the transport layer transmits the entire message to the destination. So therefore, it ensures end-to-end delivery of the entire message from a source to the destination. So as we studied in our last class, the packet switching topic, in that our whole message has been divided into small packets, but in the case of transport layer, it supports the end to end delivery. It means that it transmits the entire message to the destination at one go. So that's why it is the service it supports is end to end delivery. The second the second services is addressing. So data generated by the application on one machine must be transmitted to the correct application on the another machine. So in this case, addressing is provided by the transport layer. So as you can see in the diagram, that there are upper layer stack has been shown. So these are basically the application layer services. So in the left side part, there are three application services like 1, 2, and 3. And in the right side part, or at the receivers part, there are three services, 6, 5, and 9. So whatever comes first here, as you can see here, one has been we are here following the peer-to-peer communication. So here one has been shown here, and one has been communicating with its peer. So the peer to one is the ninth service. In the same way, the peer to the to second service is the fifth service at the receiver's end, and in the same way, the peer to the third service is sixth service at the receiver's end. So here, this can only be possible through the addressing, because here the application at the one machine must be transmitted to the correct application at the second machine. If this is not done, uh, then the service from one machine will go in a different manner, and the receiver was not ready to receive that service. So that's why addressing is very important. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box. Okay. So moving to the next services provided from the transport layer. Am I audible to you clearly? Okay. Now, the third service is reliable delivery. So, the transport layer provides reliable services by retransmitting the lost and damaged packets. So, there are four aspects of reliable delivery. So, first is the error control, second is the sequence control, third is the loss control, and fourth is the duplication control. So, in the in the in the case of reliable delivery from the sender to the receiver, so these four aspects must be taken into account, that uh, the message sending from the sender to the receiver must be delivered without any error. It it must be reached to the receiver with sequence controlling. There will be no loss of data, and the duplication of message or will not be allowed. So these are the four aspects related to the reliable delivery of message from the sender to the receiver. So this service has been provided by the transport layer. The next service is flow control. So flow control is used to prevent the sender from overwhelming the receiver. So if the receiver is overloaded with too much data, suppose the buffer size of the sender and receivers are different, and if sender continuously send in the data and without taking into account the receiver's memory or the receiver's buffer, then there must be overflow of data at the receiver's end. Then the receiver discards the packets and asking for retransmission of the packets, because there is overflow at the receiver side. So this increases the network congestion and thus reducing the system performance. So transport layer is responsible for flow control. It means it synchronizes the sender at and receiver uh, at the for sending and receiving the data. So this concept is known as the flow control. So it uses the sliding window protocol for resolving the flow control issue between the sender and the receiver. So this sliding window protocol we will going to discuss uh, in the later lectures of of this unit. The next service provided by the transport layer is multiplexing. So the transport layer uses the multiplexing to improve transmission efficiency. So multiplexing, as we already discussed uh, in the unit 2, so multiplexing can occur in two ways. So first is upward multiplexing. So in the case of upward multiplexing, it means multiple transport layers connections use the same network connection. So this we will see through the diagram. So here multiple transport connection use the same network connection. So as you can see here in the diagram, so these upper layers are basically the application layers. Then the transport layer here 1, 2 and 3. So these are the multiple transport connection as you can see here, and it can take only the single network layer connection. So this is called as the upward multiplexing. So with the use of upward multiplexing, uh, it is very cost effective. So the transport layer sends several transmissions bound for the same destination along the same path. So this can be achieved through the use of upward multiplexing. In the same way, there is another type of multiplexing known as the downward multiplexing. So in the case of downward multiplexing, here it means that one transport layer connection uses the multiple network connections. So here as you can see here in this diagram, here only one transport connection is present here, and it supports the multiple network connection. As you can see here, three network connections has been established between the transport layer and the network layer. So this is called as the downward multiplexing. So downward multiplexing allows the transport layer to split a connection among several paths to improve the throughput. So this type of multiplexing is used when networks have a low or slow capacity. So this is the second type of multiplexing which has been used in the case of networks having low and slow capacity. So these are the 5 important services provided by the transport layer. So all of you understand it till now, just write in the chat box. Okay. Now the next part is transport layer protocols. So the transport layer is represented by two protocols. So one is the TCP, means transmission control protocol, and the second is the UDP, user datagram protocol. So the IP protocol, which is the internet protocol present at the network layer, delivers a datagram from a source host to the destination host. So the an IP protocol is a host to host protocol because it connects one host in from one network to another host to second host in the another network. So used to deliver packets from source host to the destination host, while transport layer protocols are port to port protocols. So this is very important point of difference between the IP protocol and the transport layer protocol. As the IP protocol is being used to deliver packets from host to host, whereas the transport layer protocol are used to deliver the packets between port to port, that works on the top of the IP protocol to deliver the packets from the originating port to the IP services and from the IP services to the destination port. So this can be easily seen with this diagram. So as you can see here in the diagram, we have different layers of the TCP/IP model, right? Or here, as you can see here OSI model has been also shown here. So here the physical layer is there at the sender and the receiver's end. So left side diagram is of the sender's machine and the right side is of the receiver's machine. So then here we are going to communicate with the peer-to-peer layers, means the physical layer of the sender will going to communicate with the physical layer of the receiver. In the same way, all the other the layers of the sender will going to communicate with the peer layer at the receiver's end. So as you can see here at the sender's end, a client is there, and it uses the services of telnet. So it uses the TCP or UDP protocol. Then it will going to communicate with its peer at the receiver's end. So here at the receiver, it is the server which is also using the same service, which is the telnet service. So here we are using this port number. Here server is using port number 23, and here at the receiver at the sender's end or at the client end, it is sending with the port number 51001. So the communication between sender and receiver through transport layer protocol is being done with the port to port addressing, and these are the ports at the client side 51001, the port at the client side, and at the server side 23 is the port through which communication takes place. So each port is defined by a positive integer address and it is of 16-bit. So you already studied how we can write the address in the BCD form. As you already studied it in the digital electronics in third semester. So these addresses are of 16 bits. The next point is data gathered by an application on one machine must be transmitted to the correct application on another machine. So this we already discussed in the addressing services of the transport layer. So in this case, addressing is provided by the transport layer. So all of you understand it, how the communication takes place between the sender and the receiver at the transport layer, as it supports the end to end communication, and it also supports the port to port addressing. So here port to port addressing is done, whereas in the case of network layer or IP addressing, here where host to host addressing has been done. just write in the chat box so that we can proceed further. So this is the unit 3 of your syllabus, and network layer or IP addressing we are going to study in the unit 4. So in the first midterm, unit 2 and some part of unit 3 will come in your first midterm exam. Now we will going to discuss one of the two transport layer protocol, and it is known as the UDP. So UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. So UDP is a simple protocol and it provides non-sequenced transport functionality. It means here packets are not, or the message is not given any numbered. So that's why it is known as the non-sequenced transport functionality. UDP is a connectionless protocol. So just remember it whenever there is question in your objective examination or in your competitive examination, give the name of a connectionless protocol. So UDP is a connectionless protocol. This type of protocol is used when reliability and security are less important than speed and size. So it means that it is very fast protocol, but it does not support very much security and it is not very much reliable. So UDP is an end-to-end transport layer protocol that adds transport level addresses, checksum error control, and length information to the data from the upper layer. So this is its characteristics. So the packet produced by the UDP protocol is known as the user datagram. So just remember it. The packet which is produced by the UDP protocol, its name is user datagram. So sometimes it is asked or it is written as the user datagram. So it means that this packet has been produced at the UDP protocol. So these are the important points related to the user datagram protocol. So the next question is, why do we require the UDP protocol? So as we know that UDP is an unreliable protocol, but we still require a UDP protocol in some cases. So the UDP is deployed where the packets require a large amount of bandwidth along with the actual data. So in that case, we require the UDP protocols. So for example, in video streaming, acknowledging thousands of packets is troublesome and waste a lot of bandwidth. So in the case of video streaming, the loss of some packets could not create a problem and it can also be ignored. So basically, it is used in the case of video streaming where if some packets are lost, then it cannot create a big problem. So moving on to the next topic. Now comes the characteristics of UDP. So the first characteristic is the size of the UDP header is 8 bytes. The second characteristic is UDP is almost a null protocol. So it is also an example of a null protocol. So why it is called a null protocol? As it provides only limited services. The services like check summing of data. The second is multiplexing by port number. So only these services are provided by the UDP. So that's why it is somewhat called as the null protocol, because it provides only limited services. The third characteristic is UDP is an unreliable protocol. The fourth characteristic is checksum calculation is not mandatory in the case of UDP. So here we are calculating the error with the use of checksum, but here the checksum calculation is not mandatory in the case of UDP, whereas when we going to study the TCP, the checksum calculation is mandatory in the case of TCP. The fifth characteristic is UDP does not guarantee in order delivery at the receiver's end, because at the receiver end unordered user datagram packets has been received. The sixth characteristic is application layer can perform some task through UDP. So these are some of the tasks which can be performed from the application layer. So first is the trace route, the next is the record route, and the third is the timestamp. So basically these are not in your syllabus, but for information point of view, you need to just remember that application layer also perform some tasks through UDP. So these are some of the tasks performed from the application layer through UDP. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box so that we can proceed further. Okay. So next important topic is UDP header format. So this is the simplest format. We are going to study the formats of TCP in the later lectures, and also the header format of the IP datagram when we are going to study the network layer in Unit 4. So this is the smallest header format from all of them. So as you can see here, only 4 fields are there in the header format. So whenever we are sending the data from the sender to the receiver, we will going to send it through for the data with its header part also. So the sender sends the data combining with it with header. So if the header will contain here the 4 fields, and each of these 4 fields are of 16 bits. So in all, the UDP is of having length 32 bits. It is of 32 bits. So the first is the source port number, which is of 16 bit. The second is the destination port number, which is also of 16 bits. The third field is total length, which is of 16 bit, and fourth is the checksum. It is also of 16 bit. So this is the smallest header format, and you will going to just understand it. As you can see here, header is of 8 bytes. So the UDP header size is of 8 bytes. So this here, as you can see here, this is 4 bytes. This is 4 bytes, and this is also of 4 bytes. So that's why the header consists of 8 bytes. So the header size is 8 byte, and the packet size is up to 65535 bytes. It means that this number will come when you are going to expand 2 to the power 16 minus 1. So this number you will get. So but this packet size is not possible, as the data needs to be encapsulated in the IP datagram. So this datagram needs to be encapsulated in the IP datagram. So IP datagram we are going to study in the Unit 4. So and an IP packet, the header size can be of 20 bytes. So the IP packet header size is of 20 bytes, whereas the UDP the UDP header is of 8 bytes. So therefore, the maximum of UDP would be 65535 minus 20. because the we are going to separate the IP header packet size, which is of 20 bytes. So the size of the data that the UDP packet can carry would be 65535 minus 28, as 8 bytes for the header of the UDP packet and 20 bytes for the IP header. So this is basically of the competitive exam part, as because as it is of the numerical part, that what is the maximum size that uh, the UDP header will contain. So this is the maximum size, 65535 minus 28. So 20 bytes from the IP header and 8 bytes from the UDP header. So just remember this header format. Well, in the first place, you have the source port address. In the second place, you have the destination port address. In the third part, you have the total length. And in the fourth part, you have the checksum. So you just going to remember it. So let us discuss these parts one by one in detail. So the UDP header contains these four fields. So the source port number. The source port number, it is a 16-bit information that identifies which port is going to send the packet. It means it identifies the sender port number. Then the second part is destination port number. It identifies which port is going to accept the information. So it is 16-bit information which is used to identify application level service on the destination machine. The third part is length. So it is also of 16-bit field that specify the entire length of the UDP packet, that includes the header also. So the minimum value would be 8 byte, as the size of the header is 8 byte. So basically it specifies the entire length of the UDP packet. The fourth part is checksum. So it is a 16-bit field and it is the optional field. So we already discussed it when we studied the characteristics of UDP, that the checksum calculation is not mandatory. So it means that it is an optional field. So this checksum field checks whether the information is accurate or not, as there is possibility that the information can be corrupted while transmission, as UDP is an unreliable protocol. So that's why uh, the information can be corrupted while transmission. So it is an optional field, which means that it depends on the application whether it wants to write the checksum or not. So as it is optional, it depends on the application whether it wants to check or not. So if it does not want to write the checksum, then all the 16 bits are 0. Otherwise, it writes the checksum. So you already know how to calculate the checksum. So in UDP, the checksum field is applied to the entire packet, that is header as well as the data part. Whereas in the IP, so this is the another important difference between the UDP header and the IP header. So in UDP, the checksum field is applied to the entire packet, header as well as the data part. Whereas in the IP, the checksum field is applied only to the header part. So this is another difference between the IP header and the UDP header. So these are the four fields related to the UDP header. So whenever a question has been asked about the UDP header, so you need to draw the diagram of the UDP header, as well as you need to describe these header parts in detail in order to score maximum marks for that question. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box so that we can proceed further. Okay. Now the next topic is applications using UDP. So following applications use UDP. So first is applications which require one response for one request that use UDP. So for example, DNS. So we already discussed DNS in unit 2. DNS means domain name system. So domain name system uses the services of UDP. The second application is routing protocols like RIP and OSPF use UDP because they have very small amount of data to be transmitted. So you just need to remember the name. RIP means routing information protocol, and OSPF means open source path finder protocol. So these protocols use UDP. So we will going to discuss these protocols in detail when we are going to study the unit 4, because these are the part of network layer protocols. So those protocols use the UDP because those protocols require very less amount of data. So only 5 minutes are remaining. So we are wrapping it fast. So the third point is Tribal File Transfer Protocol, which is abbreviated as TFTP, uses UDP to send very small sized files. The fourth application is broadcasting and multicasting application use UDP. We already discussed unicasting, broadcasting, and multicasting in the unit 2. So broadcasting and multicasting application use UDP. The fifth application is streaming applications like multimedia, video conferencing, etc. use UDP since they require speed over reliability, because in those applications speed matters but not the reliability part. The sixth point is real time applications like chatting, online games use UDP. So these are the important areas in which UDP gives its services. So moving to the next part. So these are the applications of provided from the UDP. There are other applications also. Uh, Next is the management protocol like SNMP use UDP. Then the other is the boot TP or DHCP use UDP. And the other protocols like UDP use are Kerberos, network time protocol, network news protocol, quote of the day protocol. All of these protocols are using the UDP services. But there are certain limitations also. So the first limitation, it provides an unreliable connection delivery services. It does not provide any services of IP except that it provides process to process communication. So basically its limitation is unreliable connection is provided through the UDP. The second limitation is the UDP message can be lost, delayed, duplicated, or can be of or out of order, and it is basically due to the unreliable connection. The third limitation is it does not provide a reliable transport delivery service. It does not provide any acknowledgement or flow control mechanism. However, it does provide error control to some extent. So error control has been done through the checksum. So these are some of the limitations of the UDP. So that's it for today's class. So thank you very much for attending this class. We will going to discuss TCP in the next lecture. So now all of you can leave this meeting.